Okay, thank you. So let me share my screen here. Share. See if I can find my. Oh,
Go over one more from the, don't you want to go from the beginning over to the left? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I teach technology. You think I'd know how to do this by now, right? Well, welcome everybody. Today, I want to, acknowledge that everybody, uh, including us older people, I'm in this category also, have to use digital technology. So what I want to talk a little bit about today is all some of the negatives maybe, and how we need to protect ourselves as we use more and more parts of the digital technology that are out there. So again, just a case of raising awareness of really of all the things that are out there that you need to be aware of, so that you're more confident to use your technology. And that the phone is amazing today, what we can do on it. Some of you have laptops and computers, right? So again, I just want to cover some of the things that are out there and to raise your awareness to things that you can do to protect yourselves, okay? And I just want to remind everybody how big this problem is, right? Okay, where we have scams and fraud targeting older adults, and it's really growing very fast. And and the amount of money is staggering, right? So in 2023, FBI had reports of up to $4.9 billion that were stolen from older adults alone. Okay, and this is increasing rapidly. So 43%, nearly 50% more than a year ago. So we need to be aware of it. And we know that these numbers are probably not as high as they should be, because people don't like to report things like being scammed. So why do you think this whole emphasis now by the criminals on older adults? And so these are some of the things. We're a growing population, particularly as a birth rate goes down. They perceive us as wealthy and with easy access to money. Okay. And then, most importantly, we tend to trust everybody, right? Okay, that's just the way we grew up and our expectations. Okay. However, we also have to be aware that technology is very new to many of us. Okay. And that there are lots of opportunities in the technology we have today, whether it's social media or whatever, to look for friends or romance or what everybody's looking for. Okay. So again, we are targeting, and the targeting is growing every year. Okay. So the first thing I want to say, verify before trusting. Okay. There's so much misinformation out there designed to confuse you or to make points to you. And so, we talk about misinformation, where there's wrong information. We talk about disinformation, which is intentionally misleading. We also talk about fake news. Okay, so we know all of these things are out there. We just need to be verify the accuracy of them before we trust them. So one of the big things that you have to remember, that the cyber criminals do not want to be traced. So they've come up with lots and lots of different ways on how they're going to ask you to pay. And this is one of the big things that you need to look at when somebody asks you to pay something. Okay. So again, gone are the days of just writing a check or using a credit card. They know that that's traceable by the FBI or whoever. So they're looking at ways that they can get you to pay them without it being traceable. So a big one is gift cards. No company asks for gift cards as a payment that is legitimate. Okay, so if you see gift cards, that is a scam. Okay, There's also some scams that use, some of the newer payment apps such as Venmo. Okay. Gold bars, and I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. And also there's a lot of now cryptocurrency such as Bitcoins, right? Okay. And so what's cryptocurrency? It's just really just digital currency that's hard to trace. It's not run by a government, it's run by an organization. And so, there's no checks and balances. But remember, the scams will be asking for you to have a method of payment that is not traceable. Okay, and this is probably one of the most staggering examples from the last couple of years. Okay, and it is local. Okay, and it began with a computer alert, a pop-up ad. Usually from India or China. Okay, and they pose as federal agents, trying to convince you that your account has been compromised, and the only way out of that is for you to move your money out of your bank account or whatever into gold bars. Okay. And so, they panic everybody. And they then, when you've made the gold bars, they basically say, tell you what, it's probably not safe to keep a gold bar at home. Why don't you let us secure it for you? Okay. And so please read this, right? Montgomery County reported around 20 victims had come forward since July 2023. The worst of these was a 74-year-old Bethesda man who was defrauded out of more than $1 million that he had converted to gold bars. Now, luckily, he had enough sense to report it before the final transaction, so the police was able to come and pick the guy up at that time. Okay, so this is obviously an interesting case. But it was interesting that there were more than 20 people just in Montgomery County, Maryland, that fell to this attack. So there are lots and lots of scams out here. I don't have time to cover them all today, but these are just a list of 11 of them. Okay. And I'm going to talk about the first three because they're the most common ones that we find older people are affected by. Okay. So some of the others, if you're interested, I have material on all of these, which I can make available. But today, I just want to focus on those top three. Okay. So the first one I want to do is technical support scams. Cyber criminals know that we in the over 60 age group are not particularly tech literate. Okay. So scammers now try to impersonate technical support representatives from well-known companies. They might say they're from Microsoft or Apple, depending on what technology you're using, right? Okay. But basically, they're telling you misinformation that your computer has some problems. Okay. And here are some of the problems they might say. You got a virus, and we'll talk a little bit about that if you want. You got some serious technical issues, and it requires an urgent update. Okay. So they are trying to get access to your computer so they can steal your sensitive information. Okay. And also, they want to charge you for their services. So again, payment will be in gift cards. Payment will be not in a check or credit card. So think about how you're going to pay them. So as I said, usually those pop-up windows come up, okay, claiming that your system is infected or has a critical issue, okay, and usually provide a phone number to call for support, okay. Many of these come from overseas, so be aware that the phone number that you're calling may be a U.S. number, but then it's being transferred over to a foreign account. Okay, Google allows you to have a U.S. phone number and direct it, so it's pretty easy for these criminals to do that. Okay, so again, again, sometimes it comes over the phone, and sometimes it comes by text messages, right? But basically, they're saying we've analyzed the problem, or there's a problem. We know that your machine's infected. And you may be trusting. It says it's Microsoft. I have a Microsoft machine, right? Okay, they must know what's going on. But be very, very careful of this. Okay? Because what they really want to do is to get what they call remote access, right? They say, oh, to fix it, I need to get into your computer. Can you give me access to your computer? There's software that does that. It's pretty easy to do, right? Okay. But once they're on their computer, you have no idea what they're going to do. Okay. They may install some malware themselves. They might steal your information. They may even lock your device. Okay. And then, there's also those payment requests. Okay. Again, even if you pay them at that point, they're still on your machine. Okay. Unless you get somebody to take it off for you. Okay. And they can even do more damage by just checking what you're doing. Maybe, the software called keyloggers that enable them to capture your username and password for your bank, for example. So again, a big problem. Okay. So just a couple of awareness things, warning signs of a scam. Okay. Unsolicited contact, right? When you have a problem, you can call a tech support. You shouldn't have tech support contacting you. They want remote access to your computer, right? My suggestion is if you have a problem, then, take it to the Apple Genius Bar or something, right? But don't allow anybody to have remote access, okay? Unusual payment methods like gift cards, okay? Fear-inducing language, it's urgent, things like that, okay? Okay, and remember, the Microsofts of the world, the Apples of the world, they don't do this. So again, just be aware that your machine is not broken, okay? And if it is, then go to a reputable source to fix it, not the person who is contacting you as part of a spam. Okay, so again, don't call any numbers in those pop-up windows. Okay, do not ever give remote access to anybody who contacts you unexpectedly. Keep your software updated through official channels. Okay. Hang up on unsolicited tech support calls, report scams, and stay informed and cautious. So that's one of the things that I think is, we're all into digital technology. We've got to be aware that these scams are out there. Now, my second scam, I think, is also a different kind of scam now, because now they're really after your emotions, right? And I'm calling them grandparent scams, okay? And so you might get a phone call or a text message or something that says your grandson has been arrested and needs bail money, okay? Or your granddaughter was at fault in a car crash and you need to pay the other driver's medical bills. These are standard, attempts to try and say, okay, to go after your emotional connection to your family, okay? And, again, it's common. The FBI received reports of around 200 grandparent scams that resulted in loss of almost $2 million, okay? That's, as I said, that's underreported. Only those people who actually report it to the FBI Internet Crime Center. So we know the numbers are greater than that. Okay. So again, they usually occur over the phone, or they may be by text today. Okay. And they often impersonate law enforcement, attorneys, or the relatives themselves. One of the biggest things to remember today is the whole idea of what we call deep fakes. Okay. Which means that if you're granddaughter, grandson, or whatever had put something, say, on TikTok, which they said something, a cyber criminal can take that information and make a fake message to you that sounds exactly like them. Okay, so this is a big part of what is artificial intelligence, but is becoming more and more common. So even if it sounds like them, it may not be them. Be aware of that. Okay. So again, they're going to convince you that you need to send them money, right? They may also say, please don't tell anybody, keep it secret, okay? So how does the scam work? Unexpected phone call usually. Maybe, as I said, the voice of what sounds like your grandchild. some reason legally or medically that you need money, okay? They insist on immediate action. This is your one of your clues, right? Okay, and they're aiming to create panic in you, and the fact that you don't care, you're not doing anything enough to protect your grandchildren. So again, you know, they want money. Gift cards again are common, and I've even seen scams where they send a courier over to your house to collect cash. So again, unusual ways of payment that you wouldn't normally have in a real transaction. Okay. So again, people say, well, but he knew all about me, right? We have to remember that our grandchildren are putting a lot of information on TikTok or Instagram or all these social media sites, okay, that is publicly available, that these cyber criminals can go and look up, right? They might even have a picture of you, grandma, on or grandpa on the site, okay? So again, right? And they also know how to manipulate you to give them information, right? Okay. So again, be aware just because they know something, and just because it sounds like your grandchild, it may not be, and that you should be independently verifying where they are. So again, detection, okay, they're going to try and be as convincing as possible, okay. It's a dire emergency, demands immediate payment through unconventional means, okay, and requests that you keep it a secret, okay. So again, they may also come back with more requests for money. Maybe what you had was a statement that your grandson had an accident and somebody was in hospital, you had to pay the medical bills. They may now come back and say, oh, he died. Yeah, you need to pay some more. Okay, so again, be aware of all these fictitious things going on around you. So we call this social engineering because they're really trying to get to your emotions. And again, we said why they're attacking you is because you think you have money, they think you're really a family person devoted to your family, okay? They know something about you because they've been looking on social media, right? So again, be careful. Okay, the clues are, act quickly, okay, to help, okay. It doesn't take more than a couple of minutes to contact, your son or daughter, the parent, to see what's going on, because typically they would have been contacted first, okay. So again, they're really trying to get your emotions, okay, and so making you act irrationally and not verify. Okay. Again, another big clue is that emphasis on secrecy. Again. Okay. So again, how to prevent? Don't answer. You don't recognize. Okay. Okay. Disconnect even if the person on the end sounds like a loved one. Call the direct phone number for the family member. Okay. Okay. So again, if the family member doesn't pick up or you don't have their number, call another family member. Okay. And again, red flag if they tell you to keep it secret or they use different payment types. Don't send money to an unknown person. Okay. Do not reveal any additional personal information. So this scenario here, right? Okay. It's your grandson. The parent gives away the name, Timmy, and this scammer rolls with the information. So, when be on your guard that you're not providing additional information to help them do the scam. We encourage everybody to to share with their family, okay, and also to report it. So here's just some of the things that you can do to engage your family. Nothing is secret for us older people. We've got to share. Don't be embarrassed when something happens. We want to help you prevent it not happening again. I did a study with a doctoral student recently looking at the AARP data on scams, and it was sort of interesting how many people were scammed multiple times. So again, do it. If it happens to you once, remember, learn from it and don't let it happen again. Okay, so the last one, group I just want to talk about are phishing scams. Okay, where they send you an email, a text, or even a phone message to try and get you to trick you into revealing information such as passwords or credit card numbers or social security numbers. Okay, and most of these are examples from your bank. Okay, and again, it's easy. I get lots of emails that I don't bank there, right? So those are easy to know are scams. But when it's your bank, it's really interesting. And they are now so good at doing these things that it can well be an exact copy of your bank's website. Okay. So again, trusted sources, right? So they're pretending to be somebody you would trust. Okay. Again, that whole sense of urgency, right? Okay. Trying to get you to click on that site. Don't do it, right? Okay. And again, they're usually fake links to fake websites. Yeah. You think it's your bank, you log in. Now they have all your username information. Okay. So again, just be careful. Lots of different ways of doing it. This email goes out to everybody. There's an idea that you can target somebody, maybe they've got some data from a bank, okay? With that they did you can buy on the dark web now, lots of cases where people have stolen data, okay? And they might just attack you as what we call a spear phishing, okay? You might get it over a text message. You may get it over your phone. Okay. There's a new one now called quishing, which is basically fake QR codes. So, they're getting cleverer and cleverer at doing this stuff. Okay. Again, how do you recognize? Look at the URL. This is a little harder to do on your phone and see if it exactly matches what you usually go. Okay. If it doesn't mention your name, it says dear customer. That's another red flag. Okay. Spelling used to be awkward. They now can use AI to make that better, right? Okay. And attachments. And again, the bank is not going to ask you for personal information over a phone like that. So protect yourself, try and verify it. Look and see if it's secure. That HTTPS, the start of your where you're linking to, it says that it's encrypted. Okay. And again, one of the big things today, which I know is annoyance for all of us, is multi-factor authentication, which all banks are doing now, where you have to use your phone to verify your identity. So I know it's a pain. I'm not really a phone person, so having to carry my phone everywhere isn't my favorite thing, but that's the way it goes. Okay. So again, okay, if you suspect a phishing attack, okay, ask yourself, do I have an account with the company or know the person who contacted me? If the answer is no, it could be a phishing scam. If it's yes, it still could be a phishing scam. So contact the company using a phone number or website you know is real. Okay. The information, the email is likely to be fictitious. Okay. Okay. So if you are scammed, and it does happen, again, hopefully only once. Okay. Make sure you change all your passwords, particularly on your banking. I don't know. It doesn't matter, for some of your just information sites you may go to, but your bank, where your money is, any place where you have money, that's where you need to really focus on changing the passwords, right? Monitor your accounts, report it. And again, let's not hope it doesn't happen again by staying vigilant. Okay. So there are ways to do phishing scam. There's an anti-phishing working group. Report phishing at apwg.org. Okay. Okay. And there's also one for spam, right? And the Federal Trade Commission also has a report fraud. And again, the FBI is another important source of information. You can report it voluntarily, and so again, you can also report it to a government source like AARP. But again, we want to try and make sure that we're alerting everybody to every phishing email that's out there. So again, the most important thing to remember that phishing can lead to ransomware, right? Okay, and ransomware is currently the biggest cybercrime problem on the internet. Okay, and it's a form of malware, which means they're putting malicious software. That's what malware stands for on your computer. Okay, usually it stops you access to everything on your machine. Okay, they ask for payment to get it back. Okay, usually through cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. Okay, and again, I just want to encourage everybody. It can happen to any of us. Make sure you have a copy of all the unique information you have on your phone or your computer somewhere else. Okay, you can be a separate computer. There's also the iCloud, for example, and other things, right? Once you have all that somewhere else, maybe you do it every month or whatever, then you can get your data back without having to pay the ransomware. Okay, so again, just be careful, right? This can happen to you. So again, if something happens, disconnect from the internet straight away. Okay, if you have Microsoft or Apple, you can use that to scan your for other things that they put on your machine. Report it immediately to your bank or credit card company, and again, identify some of the people. Okay, and don't forget, change your password. I know it's a pain. Many of us have the same password in multiple places. Not good. But on your financial accounts, be very, very rigorous about making sure that you monitor for any transaction.
Excuse
Okay?
me. Oh,
Yes.
we have questions coming up. Let me know when there's a good time.
Yeah, I'm just about finished. Okay.
Okay.
Let me just finish up and then we'll do that, right? Okay. So again, here are just some places where you can learn some more. There are lots of websites. AARP has a really good fraud watch network that's good, and some of these other government resources. Stay safe online has some good tips, okay? And cyberseniors.org is another organization. So I just bring those up as resources. One of the main resources is the local library, okay? They have really good support services for seniors. The last thing I want to mention quickly is artificial intelligence, okay, as a way of finding information about what's going on, okay? So now, in the last couple of years, we've had the whole concept of generative AI, okay? So we used to search on internet and get websites and so on. Now we have an AI that we can use for free in many cases, like ChatGPT, and not just find all our links. It actually takes the information off the links and make a report to us. So I just illustrated here to end up as I asked ChatGPT, I need to buy a new laptop. Where should I go? Right? And so this is the response. Few options that could work well. Online retailers, Amazon, Best Buy, good. Newegg is a IT more space. Manufacturers, okay, some good recommendations there. Costco and Sam's Club, okay. So again, these are things that and normally I would have to go to the website and check it all out. But here it's giving me a summary. So I just wanted to think about that as a way you can go in and say, tell me about all the, I don't know, romance scams that are out there or something like that. So a good source of information. So now I'm up for questions. Here's my email if you want to contact me. And also I have a bunch of students hanging out, who can also help. So you may not hear back from me, you may hear back from one of the students. Okay, so I'll stop sharing and we'll have some questions. I hope that was useful. Okay.
Liz, you're probably on mute.
Silly me. I thought I'd taken that off. Okay. Well, we went through the grandparent scam. That was the first question. But then there was the observation that a lot of times the address of an email won't match the organization that it's supposedly from. So again, if you get something like slydog at Gmail, it's probably not the Treasury Department, even if it says it is. And the other thing is often you'll get a pop-up that just says danger, your computer has been infected, and there'll be a siren and you can't escape. If you just if you just restart your computer, it goes away. And generally I do, I use my Norton antivirus to make sure that everything nasty has gone away. But it's so far that hasn't been a problem. And then let's see, we have a message that there's an email scam going on right now where they get messages saying they need to update their cloud storage, but they don't recognize the name of the company. And that happens to me all the time too. And you know, I have an Android and I keep getting messages that my Mac needs something. So that's very, very common. And then there's the question, which you covered, which is what authorities do you report scams to? And if you could put that information in the chat or make the slides available, then we can access it.
Yes, I'll make the slides
Oh,
available. There are
great.
several
Thank
sources.
you. And then there's the question, is it safe to store personal documents or pictures on the cloud? As I understand, hackers are trying to attack cloud storage companies like Microsoft.
Yes, that's a valid point. And obviously, if you think about the cloud, it's got data from lots and lots of companies and individuals. So it is a major attack point. But I'm telling you, I would rely on the security provided by the professionals at the cloud company over what I could do by myself. Okay, and again, you know, it is safe. Okay, iCloud, most of the cloud storage, whether it's iCloud or whatever, all runs on Amazon Web Services. So again, you know, they're the ones that are responsible for making sure everything is safe. So.
Okay. A person says they were hit by a Medicare brace scam
Mhm.
where the scammer sent a Medicare request to fill an order for me via Medicare to my doctor. And luckily, the doctor's office called to confirm the order, and they were able to stop the order because if it had gone through, they would have been paying several $100 for something they didn't need. And they recommend that you save the packaging if you're sent anything that you don't need so that it helps you to contest it later on.
Absolutely. Medicare fraud is huge. Okay. And again, there's been a lots and lots of data breaches at hospitals and medical clinics lately, you know, where a lot of your information may now be available to the cyber criminal. So there is tax fraud, there's Medicare fraud, there's, you know, all sorts of different frauds. And so again, yes, you know, be really careful when you get an invoice. Another thing, it's not just that those, you know, I get invoices from saying, you know, please pay this invoice, and I've never even bought anything from them. So again, just be very vigilant about when somebody is asking you to pay money.
Okay, and then we've got someone who said, I got a strange email from my credit union telling me about a suspicious charge to my account. And then I looked at the top and the name wasn't my name. So they went and they called the credit union and they found out that there was nothing wrong with their account. And this again is something that happens a lot. And a lot of it often happens in email. So be careful, don't click through.
Yes, another one that I'm getting a lot lately is unpaid tolls. Right?
Yes.
Okay. You know, and you know, that's another big scam today where they send you an email saying, you know, and you look at the email and it says it's from New York, right? I've never been in New York in the last 2 years, right? So again, just a lot of things you have to be aware of
And
if they're asking for money.
yeah,
Right?
I went to the Easy Pass site and it's really easy to check on whether you owe anything. So always go to the site instead of just answering the email. Okay, next question is what is 2FA?
That's multi-factor authentication. Okay, so I guess that's a technical abbreviation. Okay, so in 2FA you have two forms of identification. Okay, you have your username and password, and usually then it says verify, with something like Okta or something like that, where you have to go to your phone, and it sends you a code, and then you have to enter the code to go any further. Okay, very common now on banking sites and things like that. So you have to, it's an extra security that they have in there so that now you don't have to, rely just on username and password, which may be stolen. You also have the control of it is you because, you identified on the phone.
Okay, and then there's a question of ransomware. I think a lot of us associate it as something that happens to companies, not to individuals. Is this true, or do we have to be afraid of that as well?
No, it is mainly companies. It's also healthcare companies, right? We've had several incidents on hospitals. It's also school systems. A lot of school systems now are hit, by ransomware. Okay, it could be an individual. They cannot tell when they get an email address, right? Who you are, right? Okay, so it can happen, and it does happen to individuals, particularly, if they can't tell whether you're part of an organization or not.
Okay. Can you tell us more about your cyber clinic and the help it offers?
Okay, so we have a cyber clinic here. It's currently funded by a grant from the government. So who knows how long that will be, but even so, the kids will be volunteers. So the idea behind the cyber clinic is that, there's lots of individuals or small businesses who have technical challenges. So we have a group of students who provide, support and services for free. Okay, it's absolutely free to anybody who needs some tech support. So we do everything from fixing computers to website development to, security, all sorts of other things. But the whole idea behind it is that it's harder and harder for our students to get paid internships today. And so it gives them an opportunity to have some hands-on experience with a customer that enables them to develop their skills. So it's a win-win situation for anybody who wanting help. Okay, and so we just did one interesting one for a company, a bakery. And so the students are all excited because in return for their work, they get free cookies.
Okay. Then we have someone who says, I clicked on a bogus post on Facebook, excuse me, and it locked up my computer. I used my phone to get to Microsoft Help and found a way to unlock my computer and make the lock go away. And they added, I get lots of snail mail addressed to people who do not live in my home. The post office keeps redelivering it to my address despite my note of not at this address. Meh. So, and let's,
Yes, it happened. There are, I mean, the whole idea of scams did begin with the postal service, right? When we were getting all those, letters from Nigeria, right? With the prince was going to give some money and all you had to do was invest it and come back, right? So, yes, it happened previously, but it's got a lot more prevalent now, now that we're all on the internet.
there was an incredible thing on the radio. It was Ira Glass's program that I can't remember the name of it, This American Life, about some people who got together and scammed a scammer and convinced him that they had a ton of money that needed to be picked up in a war zone. And the poor scammer, it got very sad because they went and they tried to do that. Anyway, then another question is, do you have any recommendations for good computer or phone security software?
Well, it all depends on what you're using. Okay, the 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 hardware providers now have really introduced security into their systems. Okay, so if I'm on Microsoft, okay, if I have a Microsoft, okay, Microsoft has a really great security tool called Microsoft Defender, which comes with the operating system. Okay, make sure it's turned on. Okay, because you can't turn it off, right? Okay, but it really is a good tool. Okay, and you know, you have to remember that the email services are finding most of the scams that come to you. Okay, I mean, I think there's a huge percentage of emails that never come to you, either Gmail or Microsoft Outlook or whatever you're using stops them before you come to you. So, you're not getting everything that's out there, right? But the tools they have, Apple similarly has a great software. They really understand that they need to protect everybody. So I'm not sure it's necessary to add anything else today. Okay, if you have a modern operating system. Now, some of you may have a machine that's 5 years old, then that's a little bit, then you may want to get a Norton antivirus or something else. But the newer, if you have something that's less than 2 years old, the companies who built it, whether it's Google or whatever, Google for the Android phone or Microsoft or Apple, they've come a long way in the last 2 years at trying to protect us.
Okay, and then we have someone who wants to know how we access your cyber clinic. Does a person need to register? And is there a website they would register at that you can put in the chat?
No, we're still working on it. For now, just contact me and I'll forward it. Okay, so dmurphy at marymount.edu, and then I'll forward it. I work closely. I manage the clinic and the students, and then we'll get you in contact with them.
Okay.
So I'd also just like to remind people that here at A&V, we have tech volunteers. So if any of you are having problems with your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, even your TV, you can put in a request and we'll have a tech volunteer that can either talk to you over the phone or come out and visit with you to help you with your technology problems, as well as the work that Diane's doing at Marymount. Diane, I wanted to ask another question, and sometimes I don't even know how to describe it. So it seems now that we're relying a lot on our phones and our phone number for two-factor authentication. Every time I go somewhere, they're sending me a 6-digit number, my phone, I type it in, and I love that. That's fine, it's great. But I don't understand why that phone number can't be scammed as well. I mean, when we get phone calls at home and you see the phone number come up and it's, a number that's been scanned, it looks like a number, it looks like even your own phone number or something. You pick it up and it's a scam call. I don't understand how phones have enough security for as much as we're imposing on them now. And when I say phones, I mean the phone number itself. And I
Right.
don't, that's a question that makes sense because
Right.
it just
Okay.
floats around in my head.
First of all, you have to have registered your phone number with the site. Okay, they're not sending out random things; they're sending it to some piece of information. So suppose your bank does it. So you've told the bank that you
Yes.
can validate that at this number. Okay, and they will send physically a message to that number with some code in it. Okay.
Right.
That code is only going to the number that you gave them, right?
Right, but I guess my question is, how is it that somebody doesn't steal that phone number and use it?
They don't steal phone numbers. Okay. But you can, if I want to email you, if I want to phone you, okay, I can, there's no rules that prevent me from faking your number, okay, or faking any number, okay. So again, when you see a number, it's not necessarily right. The number comes in and says,
Right.
"Oh, the U.S. Treasury," right? They have just faked that number, okay. okay? But when they send a message to you, it has to go to your phone.
Mhm. Yeah, I just, somehow in my head, I think in a couple of years that's not going to be as secure as we all rely
Well,
on it now.
right. So then we'll have another something, right? Okay.
Right.
But right now, the world is working on multifactor or two-factor authentication that uses your phone. Okay. So,
Mhm.
we have to do it to get into the computers here at Marymount, and it's a pain, right? But that's where we are, right? So maybe in 5 years, we all have a microchip.
They were pushing biometric ID.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when you go to protest, they tell you don't do it because the laws are different. And it seems that if you have a passcode, you can say to the police, no, I'm not going to give it to you, and that's legal. But they can always, just use your
Yes.
face. So, anyway, there's a question about can you please talk about VPNs, especially as they relate to cybersecurity?
Okay, so VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, okay? And that's a way to access a computer. It might be the bank, it might be somewhere else, right? Okay, and what it does, it sets up a little equivalent to a private channel, okay? So everything that goes down that channel is what we call encrypted, right? So it's scrambled up. So anybody who's listening to that message cannot know what information that you're passing to them, okay? So a VPN, okay, is just a way of providing access to a, a, a secure device or something so that when you go over the internet, it's not readable, okay? And so its value is that, anytime that I just go over the internet, okay, and I just put in my information, if it's not encrypted, which is what that HTTPS is all about also, right? So if the site sends you a message and says, put your information in here, and it says HTTPS, that S stands for secure, and it means that everything that you send is then encrypted and non-readable, okay? Unless you have what's called the key, okay?
Okay, and then we have a message. I have my Android phone set up to reject any calls from a number that isn't in my contacts, so it's informational.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good idea, by the way, right? Okay, to control who accesses you, right?
Okay, and I think that's all the messages we have, and we've got like 5 minutes left. So
So we did good.
we did very good.
Good,
Right on money.
good. I hope. I mean, this is just an awareness session, right? Okay, don't stop using your technology. Has some real good advantages, right? I don't want you to come away there. I don't want to do anything at tech. Tech has, I mean, it's just amazing today what you can do with technology, right? I mean, you just think about, routing yourself to wherever, right? And GPS and all those other things. So, we've come a long way, and many of our age group really only got into technology because of COVID, right? COVID had a lot of negatives, but the positive thing, we had to use technology for the first time. So again, lots and lots of, it's truly amazing when you start thinking about what you can do now, right? With contacting people, getting information. And I want everybody to sort of think about trying AI, okay? ChatGPT.com is free, okay? Put in anything and see what it comes back to you. It's absolutely fascinating, right? Okay. And it's just not for young people. Just go on there, say something. As I said, I asked about a laptop, but you can ask about a place, a thing, or whatever, and you'll be just amazed at what it gives you. Is it
Okay,
100% accurate? Not necessarily, but it's a lot better than you having to click on each link and find out what it says. Sorry.
okay. And Tammy says, I think when scammers push scam messages with a link, they're using random phone numbers, and she's right, hoping to hook someone to respond to it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
They probably have software that generates
Oh,
phones.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And
right?
email addresses too, because I've gotten some that are for an E. Miller and it's close enough to my name that it comes up.
Mhm.
We were talking to somebody yesterday who works in a marketing company, and she says that what they use now is AI generated marketing emails. So when you get a marketing email that's looking to sell you something, and you think really there's a salesman somewhere who sort of created that email and somehow typed your name and other information in it, she said all AI generated, and then the follow-up message when you don't respond is AI generated, and until you click and say yes, I want to talk to somebody, that's the first time that a human being is really getting engaged in the effort.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. But it's also increasing the amount of email that we're getting, right? Okay,
Mhm.
because there's not a person clicking a button anymore. It's just a computer sending us repeat messages and so on. It's really hard to know when a human has now sent you an email.
One quick last question for me. So I get a lot of those junk emails, and I used to sit there in my junk box and, sit there and click on the this is junk, block the sender. It doesn't seem to ever block the sender. I go back the next day and I get more emails from the same sender. Are they just creating new email addresses constantly?
Yes, yes, yes. AI generated email addresses, right? So that because the email, when you block something, it has to be an exact match, right?
Domain name match,
Right.
right,
So they just add something on the end
right.
and it's different, right?
All right,
But yeah, it doesn't work.
right.
And you've got a lot of messages saying absolutely great presentation and wonderful, and it really was helpful. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. And
Thank you,
again,
Diane. I'm sure we'll
uh,
ask you back again.
okay, good. I got another 8 or 9 different scams I can talk about. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
Diane,
bye-bye.
Diane, thank you so much for your presentation. We've certainly learned a lot in terms of not only securing our phone and our computer, but all these scams that we are likely to have to deal with. So we
Right, right.
appreciate your presentation.